what is his impact on society? Okay, yes, he took these drugs. Okay, they made him feel better. That's cool. But like, he literally has spent the last 10 years of his life terrorizing people. Like, what is actually going on here? So this goes to your point about like, you asked like what do I actually think is happening? So there's a lot of ways to look at it, but to boil it down for the sake of simplicity, well, first, I'll just say at the tail end of the article, I explain the historic connection to the Nazis actually doing research with psychedelics in Ukraine during World War II, which again, for people who know a little bit about World War II or the Nazis or MK Ultra, they might plug that piece of information in and kind of be like, "Oh, okay." But in context, like with no context, it doesn't really mean anything. It's like, okay, so like these fascists were screwing around with drugs in Eastern Europe, like that wouldn't really matter unless we kind of plug it in with everything else that we know about what's going on right now. So that's just one thing as a condition to what I'm about to say, which is that the Nazis were already experimenting with these drugs like in Ukraine. And then like the reason that matters is because the American government learned about these drugs and this approach to using them when they discovered the documentation at the concentration camps that they liberated at the end of World War II, like Auschwitz and Dachau. So prior to World War II, there was some interest in psychedelics among the academic crowd, but it was just kind of like this niche thing. But when the military found these documents that the Nazis were using like mescaline and stuff in these experiments, all of a sudden the military was like, what were they doing? I wonder if we can do the same thing. And there started to be funding for it. And that's the beginning really of this whole like the modern research for psychedelics and when the Luces got into it and like Gordon Wasson and Tim Leary and stuff. But so all I just said all that to say that like there's a history here. Like this isn't just like an isolated event that's happening for no reason in a vacuum. There has been psychedelic research that already happened in Ukraine in World War II. The US military has already known about the gist of it since then. And the same people that knew about that are the same people who are initiated the process that has led to the creation of like um maps and all these research groups now that like may anyway. So like to the point, what is happening here? Like why are they using this neo-Nazi named Hitman and saying, yay, he had some psychedelic therapy? What is actually happening? Two or three things at least that we can keep it simple. One, which we already said, they said it. They're trying to make the war in Ukraine sexy. Like the actual people involved in this effort, like literally said that. So we can take that as like one of their goals. The other goal that another person said at the same meeting is that, well, maybe these drugs can become a source of revenue for Ukraine because after the war, everything's going to be destroyed and we're going to need money. So maybe we can sell ayahuasca therapy. That's literally in the New Yorker article that I mentioned, but they make it sound all cute and innocent, like, oh, like the war is so fucked up, we're gonna need a source of money and we can use this. And it's like, okay, on the surface, I guess that's cool, but it's like, wait a minute, you're talking about like redeveloping the Ukrainian economy and hoping that these drugs and this therapy is gonna like somehow be a significant contributor to that. And like you're over here and anyway. Now the other thing, so A, they're trying to make the war sexy, B, they're trying to make money. And then the other thing, which kind of goes back to Danny's question of the mind control, it's like if, and this applies to all the research that's being done that is aligned with the military industrial complex with these drugs, which is arguably all of the MAPS research, because a huge like portion of MAPS' own research is tied to the DoD, not all of it, but a lot of it. And a lot of the new psychedelic drugs that are being made right now are being made at a DARPA lab in at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
I know, right? I mean, there's another institution where if you've never heard the name before, or even you've heard it 100 times, but you don't know anything about it, it's like, okay, the UNC Chapel Hill, whatever. But if people actually go and read the research of what goes down at this school and what
Gain of
has been
function,
going down.
anybody? Gain of function?
Ooh.
Just saying,
I
right?
mean, that's again, there's many different, so and so like what am I saying here? There is a dimension in which, or a lens through which one could argue that the military and the private sector are hoping that these drugs, it's like